He came from a planet called Viltrum to be the most powerful creature on Earth. He used his powers to become the ultimate protector, but he also got a family and had a son who's half Viltrumite named Mark. His son was a normal kid without any superpowers, but it's normal and his superpowers will start to appear when he becomes a teenager. But as soon as Mark got his powers, it started to get serious after the murder of the Guardians of the Globe. So, who is the killer? And are they ever gonna catch or kill something powerful like that, who managed to kill some of the most powerful superheroes on Earth? Well, that's what we're gonna find out in the recap of the first 4 episodes of Season 1 from Invincible. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Our story begins with the Mahler twins, who were attacking the White House in an attempt to kill the president. But the Guardians of the Globe and Omni-Man get there just in time to save the day. Afterwards, Omni-Man, aka Nolan, goes back home to his wife Debbie and his son Mark, and they have a chat about his powers, cause it's time to appear. At school, he found someone named Todd harassing Amanda. So, despite him knowing Todd would beat him up, he tried to help. Todd indeed beat him up, but Amanda hit Todd in his weak point and thanked Mark about what he did. Later that night, Mark's powers kicks in, and as soon as Nolan finds out, he begins his training. Nolan takes him through a few things he should know and helps him balance his abilities. Just like his dad's superpowers, Mark got it all. Begin from flying, strength, and other unknown stuff. The following day, Mark dresses up and flies out into the city to play superhero, and after he finished some criminals, his dad arrives at the scene and then takes him to his costume designer to get a costume. While he's on that, he discovers that he'd also need a name, and he still can't find one yet. During training with his dad, he tells him that he's scared that he might not be enough, but after a talk with his dad, his confidence levels go up. He decides to be called Invincible and returns to designer for his costume. Soon after, he gets an opportunity to test his ability when a villain attacks the city, so he went to check it out, and he finishes the villain easily. But he has to work on his skills cause he destroyed half of the neighborhood. Meanwhile, the Guardians of the Globe had been summoned to their headquarters, and suddenly, Omni-Man shows up and killed them all. And due to his injuries, he passed out between their dead bodies. The Global Defense Agency, an organization that works with the Guardians, goes over to the Guardians' headquarters just to find all the Guardians dead and Nolan near death. Debbie and Mark show up at the hospital, where Nolan is being hospitalized. However, Mark has to leave when the city is attacked by aliens named Flaxens. He tries defeating them on his own, but he was failing pretty good. He froze in the battlefield, and when he tried to save an old woman and take her out of the fire range, he got hit, and the impact killed the poor woman, and that made him more nervous, and he couldn't move a muscle. That's when the Team Teen shows up. They were Duplicate, Rex, Atom Eve, and Rudy. They start killing the aliens, and the Flaxens are pushed back, cause they're getting old, and it was something about the time of their planet is different from the time on Earth. The next day at school, Mark recognizes Atom Eve from the previous day, and she takes him to meet the rest of the team. After a few days, the Flaxens return stronger than before, and they manage to solve the aging problem, but Invincible and the teen team manage to defeat them by breaking the time bracelets on their wrists by a specific frequency wave, and the heroes were very confused because how the aliens managed to solve the aging problem so quickly. But Rudy explains to us it's just a few days, but for them, it's decades. At the end of the battle, Mark has to leave to go see his father, who's now awake at the hospital. And while leaving the hospital, Nolan asked about his costume, cause as he said, it's classified and he wants it back. When Cecil Stedman, who was organizing the guard's mission, asks Omni-Man about the Guardian's death, and he lies about what happened. After a few days, Cecil came to Nolan's house and told him about the thing heading to Earth, and they need someone to stop it. Nolan refused, so his son volunteered and went to space and found an alien. They get into a fight, but when they had a timeout, it turns out the alien was looking for a place called Urath to be its protector or something, and Mark told him this is Earth, not Uearth. So he went back from where he came from. After a while, the Flaxens return more prepared than before, and would have gained victory but for Omni-Man, who made them retreat and went through the gate and destroyed their planet to prevent any further invasion. At the Guardians' headquarters, Darkblood, a demon detective in his bid to learn more about the Guardians' death, was doubting that one of the Guardians is the killer. During the Guardian's funeral, Cecil not only asks Rudy to come work for him, but allows him to pick the superheroes to become the new Guardians. Mark called Amber and invited her to a studying date over his house, and she happily agrees. The superheroes are selected from an organized competition, and Mark isn't included in the competition because his father would rather train him himself. After the competition, Rex, Monster Girl, Black Samson, and Duplicate, with Rudy of course, became the new Guardians of the Globe. At Nolan's home, Cecil appears in Mark's bedroom and asks for his help. Mark obliges, excusing himself from Amber, who was in the bathroom, and goes to stop Doc Seismic. He and Atom Eve are the only superheroes available, but they're enough to stop Doc Seismic. Afterwards, Mark runs home and apologizes to Amber, and she accepted his apology, and they spent the rest of the day together. Meanwhile, Rex apologizes to Eve because he cheated on her, but she turns him down and went to look for someone to talk to, and she goes over to Mark's house, but finds Mark and Amber kissing, so she goes back home. In prison, the Mahler twins attempted to escape with some help from the inside, but one of them gets killed during the process. In the prison's control room, Cecil walks in, and it reveals that Rudy is behind the escape of the Mahler twins. Darkblood then appears at Nolan's house, attempting to talk to Debbie regarding any piece of information that could shed some light on the night of the Guardians massacre. However, he leaves when he notices Nolan's presence. Meanwhile, Mark continues his training. His father tells him more about Viltrum, his native planet, and later that night, Debbie goes through the internet searching for Darkblood, but she stops as soon as her husband and son return home. However, she doesn't know that Nolan already knows about Darkblood's visit. Nolan goes to Darkblood's office and confronts him about coming to his house and scaring his wife. In return, Darkblood asks why he killed the Guardians, but he denies that accusation and went back to his house. Shortly after, Cecil comes over to Nolan's house, requesting him to secretly follow the astronauts going to Mars as a safety measure. But he refused the offer, and that's when Mark walks in on the conversation and decided to go instead of his father. And before he goes, he stopped over Amber's house and told her he's gonna be traveling for 2 weeks, and it seems he can't decide whether to tell her that he's invincible or not. Actually, Cecil was hoping that Omni-Man takes the job so he can investigate the murder of the Guardians without the fear of Omni-Man, but luckily, as soon as Mark left, Nolan and Debbie decided to take a holiday in France, where they first met, so now Cecil can search the house as he likes. Mark finally went to Mars and everything was quiet. However, things go south when Mark takes a nap and wakes up to find them gone, so he started to follow their footprints. Darkblood uses Nolan and Deborah's vacation as an opportunity to search their house for clues. But while he's on it, he's captured by Cecil and sent back to hell because of his intention to make Omni-Man's crimes public, and Cecil wanting to take it far by punching Omni-Man for what he did. But he's invincible, so he needs some time. In the same time, the last one of the Mahler twins goes to an abandoned building and started to make a clone from himself. And of course, Rudy was watching him by the hidden camera in that building. Meanwhile, back at Mars, Mark finds his way to the Martians' hideout, and some of the Martians take him to the Emperor of Mars, and he finds the missing astronauts and learns about the parasitic alien race on Mars and their ability to control humans and destroy planets. The king has no intentions of letting those humans go because they might be infected, so Mark took them and ran from the plant. But he doesn't know that one of the parasitic alien is with them on the ship. Meanwhile, Rudy was at the same building Mahler was cloning himself in, and he intends to clone Rex from his blood. So, will Cecil manage to find something to kill Omni-Man? And what will happen with the alien when he lands on Earth? And finally, what are Rudy's plans? That's what we're gonna find out in the next and last part of Season 1 from Invincible. So, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching, see you soon, and goodbye.